created a really big Giants guide already on Zor's channel, so check that out if you want more. But here I'll give you the quick and dirty version. So the first thing to note for Giants, love Giants, they're super weird, is that usually it takes digs to dig, a certain number of spades to convert a color to your native hex color. But for Giants, no matter what other color it is, it takes 2 digs to convert it to red. And that's actually a disadvantage. There's no hexes that are only 1 dig for them to convert to their native color. They have to do 2 digs for all of it. So that's a bummer. On the flip side, they have a really powerful stronghold that's effectively essential for Giants. So it's 4 power every round, and it gets an action space that gives you those 2 spades you need. So that basically gets you 1 free red hex every single round. And because of this disadvantage that they have inherently, that stronghold becomes really, really critical. So we'll unpack now how that should affect our strategy in playing them. So the sort of classic starting placements for Giants are D4 and D7. This is kind of for a couple of reasons. Like you can see in the northeast, there's access to a fair number of reds up there around the D7 hex. And D4 tends to have a lot of upgrading around it, so it tends to get a lot of power, and it gives you access to the north and out to the west as well. So these are sort of the standard placements, and the other, I'd say second most common that I actually like quite a bit, I know some of the other top players don't like as much, is starting double center. So G2 and D4. And then what this enables you to do is from D4, you only want to do this if you know from D4 you can sort of cut through and then be getting D6, D7 on 1 shipping pretty early in the game by, let's say, round 3 at the latest. And being south G2, like maybe all the upgradings in the middle, you get a lot of power. And then if you look, you see I5 on 1 shipping, and also G1, E3 is really easy to get to from G2. So that's pretty nice. But, you can also just sort of, think creatively about starting placements. Like every once in a while, if fakirs are on E8, you might need to start on D6. You almost never see that, but just throwing out some ideas. Every once in a while, you might be able to start on E3 and then with temporary shipping round 1 be, digging G1 and beating someone to G2 anyway. So you can sort of head that direction. But by far the most common are D4, D7. So those should be your standard. I'd say D4, D7, look for opportunities to do D4, G2 occasionally, and then be open-minded. You never know in Terra Mystica when alternative starting placements make sense. Taking a look here at Claybo's opening slide. So the key thing is just always, always, always open Stronghold as Giants, especially as a beginner. Don't they're really hard to play in general, even opening Stronghold. So definitely do that when you're learning. Otherwise, you risk completely crashing and burning at the beginning of the game. So to open Stronghold, you start with 6 workers. So 2 of those workers are the trading post. 4 of those workers then get you the Stronghold. So that's all the workers you start with, and then you want to do your your Giant Stomp, your Stronghold action to get at least 1 new dwelling down, which means you need 1 more worker. So one scroll that lets you do that, smoothly is the Worker Power Scroll. That lets you have that extra worker in your hand so that you can go Stronghold, stomp down a dwelling, and then use, you haven't used any power yet. You can use that for other stuff or pass quickly out of the round. It's up to you. Another one that's really attractive and probably the default for Giants is looking for the Big Building Scroll. That also has workers you need, right? We need at least 1 worker, and we're going to score 4 points by opening Stronghold round 1. So that's considered probably the go-to for Giants. And then I think that the next question for Giants is, can they actually get 2 dwellings down round 1 instead of just 1? So this scroll has 2 workers on it. So one way you can do that is by increasing shipping or by bridging round 1. So if you're on this Big Building Scroll, or if you start on, say, temporary shipping or priest, right? those are the avenues to get the shipping you need, and then you would need the worker power action. So either you start with 2 workers and look for opportunities to bridge or take the priest action to increase ship, or you start with a way to increase shipping and you grab the 2 workers with your power. And both of those give you opportunity then to open Stronghold 2 new dwellings round 1, which is a nice opening for giants. So that's kind of the standard thing that you're looking for. But, like if none of those are available, you could start on just, 6 coins is nice for giants. They need a lot of coins. So you could start on 6 coins and see if you could get, the workers action and the priest action and increase ship and get 2 new dwellings down that way. If you're in a pinch, it's also okay to use, hard convert 3 power into 1 worker to build that on that stronghold stomp. Sometimes that's just the way to go, The other thing is to consider for round 1 are if it's a worker reward off of fire or air, getting a priest to the 3 spot on that's pretty nice. So those are opportunities to maybe put a priest to cult in those rare circumstances. Giants really don't like the spades off the cult because they can't do anything with only one spade. So they'd have to get to the 8th step to get 2 spades, and even then it just gets them 1 hex. So that's that's not very helpful. But when it's workers off of air or fire, that could be a nice one for them. And then the other thing along that line to consider for round 1 is this scroll, the cult coin scroll, is that if it's worker rewards from air or fire, that 1 step gets you to the, basically gets you a free worker back from one of those cults without even having to put a priest to the cult. So that's typically how I'd think about the opening for giants round 1. It's definitely a stronghold. I want to make sure I'm building on that first stomp that I'm going to do. Or I can find a way to open stronghold 2 new dwellings, either via bridge or plus ship. And then should I consider trying to get a little something off the cult, either with the cult coin scroll or getting a priest to fire air. I'm not even going to mention other temple openings yet. Maybe I'll come back to that in the spicy section. Okay, in terms of game plan for giants going forward, so a couple things. Let's assume we're on our sort of classic starting placements of D4, D7. Okay, so where do we go from here? So first things first, giants love to look for the coins power action that gives you 7 coins. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. Also, since we're opening stronghold, we tend to not have as easy access to priests. So that's another thing that we're looking for. Part of the reason we like coins and priests so much is that we like to increase ship. For giants, it's really good to be able to get to your native red hexes because it's so hard. Everything's 2 digs to turn it to red. So it's really, really nice to be able to increase ship and get the ones that are naturally red. So we're trying to find ways to increase shipping and get to natural reds. We're also trying to set up towns. And sort of the most straightforward way to town for giants is to try to connect 2 of the reds on the board, right? So you can see that D6 to A9 could be connected. D4 could bridge and be connected to A6, or D4 could, through C3, B4, go to A9. D7 could go up to A12 with a bridge. So a few of these require bridges. The dream one is from the middle, D4, is getting down to G2. If you can do that one's amazing. So some of what we're trying to do is set up towns, and giants are a faction that can town pretty quickly, particularly with a bridge in round 1 or 2. And when we town, a lot of times what we're looking for is the ship town because we have difficulty getting access to coins and priests. But sometimes you can go for coin town or things like that. So you can sort of see some natural development. We talked about increasing ship, and in the east that gets us up to A12, D6 pretty easily. If we stomp on either B5 or B4, we can get to A9. With 2 ship from D4, we're getting up to A6. And then the other one here is from D4 west to D3, getting E3. And so if you add a couple more stomps out west, that's a nice town location as well. And of course, there's I5 in the odd circumstance, or even in the southwest corner, if you stomp H1, you can get I1. If it's like round 6 dwelling scoring or something like that, that might happen. So Yeah, so in Giants are often, yeah, they're like an okay network faction. You probably want to try to get three towns. Sometimes you push for network instead of focusing on the third town to try to get more of those natural reds. Um, and the other thing I would say is if you can grab like pretty smoothly, if you can grab an Earth One favor round two after opening Stronghold, that's a pretty safe, secure game plan because Giants don't have easy ways to score otherwise. They're not great on the cults. They're okay on network, not great. So they do want to find ways to score with ideally sort of towns favors. They if you miss Earth One, that's okay. If you can hit like a round four trading post round really hard with Giants, that works really well. You spend your first three rounds getting dwellings out. You have water one. Maybe you can land on the trading post scoring scroll and just hammer trading posts in round four. That's a nice situation for Giants. So yeah, that's how I would think about sort of the Giants game plan going forward. Regarding disrupting opponents, I know people think of them as like really an aggressive faction. They're actually a little bit fragile, so just make sure that you are doing things that help yourself, help you get to red, set up your towns, fight for network. And you want your aggression to opponents to be a little bit more subtle. You want it to sort of maybe you kill a town in certain circumstances in a way that also gets you to another red. Maybe you are cutting someone's network connection in a way where you see if you do that, you're going to get 6 more points on network. So you want to make sure you only attack other players in a way where you very clearly see that turning into points for you going forward. But focus on having a good economic game plan first before you focus on trying to kill opponents. Giants are one of the weakest factions. Still fun though. So Giants would really like to see the dig scroll not in the game. Okay, it's really good for everyone else, not very good for Giants. Giants can't make good use of one spade by itself, since they need two spades for every hex. Next things are Giants have a little bit of a hard time scoring. They don't have good ways to do that, and so big building scroll, dwelling scroll, ship scroll are all scrolls that are really useful for Giants. They're opening stronghold, they're going to build lots of dwellings, they need to increase their shipping, so all three of those are really helpful scoring tools for Giants. From there, they can make some different things work, but they'd probably like to see one of either temp ship or priest. They're happy to see trading post scroll, they're happy to see coins in the game. But in terms of matchups, gray is not too bad. Gray would be on f6, e7, and Giants can kind of get, so let's assume Giants are on their classic starting placements of d4, d7. Giants will get sort of the north and west, while gray takes the south. So that's kind of okay. The one hex you want to worry a tiny bit about is engineers. If they take e9, they could, with temporary shipping, dig d6 like in round 2 or 3. So that would be one thing to look out for. On the other side of the color wheel is yellow. And there, so Fakir's usually not too bad. Just every once in a while, they might start on e8 and threaten d6 right away. So watch out for that. But it's nomads that are the biggest issue. They'll start d3, f3, and then either e8 or b4. And both of those really get up in your space. And so if you're going against nomads, you're going to probably play smaller footprint, see if you can grind out, maybe 3 towns, but it might just be a 2-town game against nomads. So it's really restrictive against nomads. So that would be a big one that I would, look for to not play against. Other strength things to look out for, if there's an opportunity for you to play a game where you start on d4 and dig down through the middle and get to g2, that's amazing. That's really good for Giants. So if there's some way for you to connect those two so you can town there without a bridge and then get to the south and the west, that's like a really nice situation for Giants. Sorry, it's a terrible arrow. And then if there's no network factions, so like if you're not going to see stronghold witches, you're not going to see nomads, you're not going to see engineers, you're not going to see alchemists. Now all of a sudden Giants might be the best network faction in that situation. So that's another thing to look out for, is maybe there aren't any big network factions in the game and maybe Giants can win network here. Those are the things that I would look out for assessing their strength. For a deep dive on spicy openings for giants, check out part 3 of the Giants Guide that I made for Zorus's YouTube channel. I also have it linked on the in a playlist on the homepage of this YouTube channel. So in part 3 of that, I go through these in detail. But in short, couple ideas. You can open Stronghold Temple, both in round 1, and with your temple take Fire 1 or Earth 2 or Earth 1 and go from there. Just need to make sure you have 2 workers for round 2 at least. And the other crazy one is opening a temple and not opening Stronghold round 1. Usually not a good idea, but there are situations where you can try to pull it off. And so you open temple, either 0 new dwellings, 1 or 2 new dwellings round 1, for example, with temporary shipping, and then see if you can get your stronghold up as quickly as possible and go from there. So again, part 3 of my Big Giants Guide, you can get more details on that. Usually just open stronghold, but giants are a fun faction to play. So yeah, good luck all.